cryptographs. All right, different things. I'm just going to show you a little bit more about scaling here. We were talking about language before, so I thought I might go through this. This is about the regularization of English. So English, famously, lots of invasions and general silliness of English people. We have a very strange language, right, with lots of so the French came in for a while and added all sorts of things and on top of this Germanic background, but it's a mixture. And then it's become a, with the whole colonization of the world thing, and it's retreated, there was absorbing of all sorts of other words. So English is a bit of an odd one. So this is an exploration of looking at the past tense of verbs in English. That's what it is, right? So that is, generally speaking, and conjugation in general, but past tense is a pretty interesting one. So ED is the rule, is the winning rule, right? You can imagine this as an algorithmic thing, right, where it's an information sharing thing. We have an algorithm for communicating with each other, and we cleaned up the, well, collectively, we may have cleaned up the code, which is not entirely a great thing. But okay, so this is the number of irregular verbs and the frequency of usage, right? So this is what we were talking about before with these are the most common words out here. So to be and to have are the most common verbs in English. They are weird, right? I am, you are, they're just strange things, and this is typical of many languages. I think it's kind of a theory of mind thing, right? We're developing the words, and my amness is different to your arness, but we both jump. Like that's true, right? Anyway, so as you go back, you see that there's this sort of spread. So modern English has less of these irregular verbs when we go down to lower frequencies, and there are just less in general here. But Old English to Middle English to modern English, there's been this decay in the number of irregular verbs. And you can, there's, we don't have to go into all this, but there's an effort to kind of estimate how rapidly that's happening, and it seems to be a scaling law, so that's why this is in these slides, that the rate of regularization decays as frequency to the -1/2. So I don't think there's any rule for, any explanation for why this might be. There are all sorts of other kind of scalings floating around about language that may or may not be, that aren't very well understood. But this is, all right, so it's further out, so it's going to take longer. Maybe one day we'll say I am and you am and we am. And there are estimates of how long that will take based on this, right? So the more common a verb, the more resilient it is to change, which makes sense, right? And we have this, and the new ones we introduced, Google, right? I Google, you Google, we Google, they Google, like we Googled. That comes in as it just gets the regular conjugation. This is a sense of what's happened over the years. So these are, so as I said, to be and to have not regularized, so they get a 0%, and there's an estimate of how long, 40,000 years of humans talking in English, then they will end up with very simple conjugation. So these are ones that aren't, that, the ones in black, if you can see that, hopefully, they haven't become regularized, but the red ones have. So, teach and taught, for example. Little kids will want to say teached, right? They want to say that, and we are incredibly upset about it. It's very fundamental. It's like obviously wrong, but it's sort of a form of child abuse where we, where we say, this is you don't know what you're saying, right? You can't speak like that. So that's a interesting piece. All right. Oh yeah, that's true. So we're down to about 150 irregular verbs for past tense, and wed is kind of on the bubble, right? So two people were wed, but you could be wedded to an idea. Like this sort of, we were wedded to this idea. So that usage of the word wed gets the normal past tense. So it's been winning, but some things are just fun to say. So snuck is fun to say. So that's been kind of doing well. People say snuck and sneaked, but snuck is doing well for itself. So there is also word feel. Things like plurals, right? So there are different kinds of regularization. So S has become, ending in S is the winning kind of rule for English. And we still say children, which is a German or Linux Boxen, if we talk about computers. But children, but if you say, you know, the child's, then that's going to, it just hurts, right? It's very odd. All right. Okay, that's good. Lots of other interesting scalings in language that I can talk about later, but that's just a little piece there. Okay. No.